Well, I have to admit, I invested all my money, or at least a lot of my money, into hydro dams a long time ago. Well, if you go back, you'll notice that I am Mr. Hydropower. Throughout ancient times and Roman times, and coming up into present day, if you look at Britain and Europe, you'll notice that there's a lot of research that I did on hydro dams and hydro stuff. Lucifer Star, basically. Um, like I say, like somewhere around Birmingham in Europe, you'll notice like a lot of like my old textile mills. There was this one where the textile mill was on top, and then they had the rotary thing underneath, and the river actually went underneath my textile mill, so it'd flow. I think there was a side channel, and then there was a channel where it would flow underneath the building, and there was pipes and stuff. Or actually, I think we used red brick or whatever, but it flows underneath the building or over the building or something like that. I forget. I think, yeah, maybe it flows over and under. I don't know. It's this thing in Europe. You'll notice it. They talk about it, and it's like, I can't believe the river's over us. It's like, yeah, I know. Anyway, we dug this great. We put a channel, and then we dug down really deep, and then we put red brick in there, and then we locked it off. And then I think the textile mill goes under inside of one spot or something like that, and then it might have been a power station and textile mill because there might be a mine nearby. I forget the exact details of it. Anyway, and then there's my very very old one where there's a pipe and stuff and a little bit of thingy and the my lit. It's like Brighton or something like that. It's a town of Brighton. Basically, we built a power station. I had a steam power station too, but there's a hydro power station, and then from there, that's like 1700 or 1600. And I've always had like the water mill and the sawmill next to it, and I've done a lot of that. But then I started really like breaking out, and I started like doing these bigger projects. Like I say, the Hoover Dam was Germany, and it took like 3 generations to finish or whatever. And that was basically me and Germany, and then like America, United States didn't really even build it. It was actually Germany that actually was working on it, working on the hydropower part of it. My German engineers. And then after that, that was so successful. And I think there's a mine right next to it or something like that. I did a lot of mines, and my mining equipment would need a lot of power because I do power to hydraulic or something like that in mining. So I used to do steam mining and steam stuff, but it gets too hot, and it's already hot down there. So and it just became a problem. It becomes like this wet, sticky fog, basically, which is good. It's okay for coal mining because you have a lot of coal dust anyway, but it's not so good for other mining. So we switched over to hydraulic and electric. And when we did that, we needed huge amounts of power. We were using steam power to generate power and then run it and then run it that way. But that was inefficient. I was using a lot of coal. So we started switching over to hydropower because I've always been big on hydropower. I like free energy. I've always been like, well, there's water there, so why don't we just tap into that? Let's do that. So ever bigger and bigger projects, and mostly I was getting the metal out of it. And plus, for smelting, you need huge amounts of power. To smelt ore, you need a lot of power to create the heat. And I was using my tantalum wiring. It's just, we'd use big bars about this big or something like that, and it was tantalum. And as long as you don't shut down the mill, as long as you keep the mill on and keep power coming to the mill, it'll never solidify. It'll never be a problem or something like that. I think maybe it'll melt anyway. I don't know. If you turn it off, whatever, you can just turn on the electricity again. But basically, they run 24 hours pretty much, and then so it's not a problem. Anyway, though, I think there might be a slag buildup. I don't know. Anyway, it's all part of the making aluminum. I own the world's biggest aluminum manufacturing because all my aircraft. So there's 2 of them, about like one in China and one in the US or one in Europe or whatever. Anyway, there were a couple of them, and I kept on upgrading my plants to bigger and bigger plants. Anyway, though, a lot of the old like 1920s, the 1890s films are about like my plants, basically, like like K-29, also quite all the research companies. I just had one, and then another one, the Civil Nuclear Power Agency and all that. But nuclear power is kind of like, why? I like there was a time there when I was like, forget nuclear power. Let's just go hydro. It's safe. It's clean. Let's just do, because we were having all kinds of problems and people were breaking in and then they were doing all this other kind of stuff and then they were making the power plants. And it's like, it's too much of a problem. We should just go hydro. So around especially in 1990s, 1980s, or so. I was like, forget it. We're just going to go hydro. So we just left a lot of the old plants, the old nuclear power plants in place, and we just started building these huge power hydro plants. I was like, I'm just going to invest in the hydro plants. I know nuclear energy is a good energy and it works, but let's just go hydro. All the power we need is there, plus we have fresh water, and then we'll just, as far as supplements for the plants, we'll just find a way, an artificial way to create the supplements, nitrogen and the calcium. We'll use some other way to do the farms, but we'll go all hydro, and then we'll use the supplements for the farming, and then we won't worry about the what's called. I know I had a lot of like overflow fields and all that stuff, but I was like, let's just forget it. Let's just go with hydro, and then we don't have to worry about radiation or anything like that. So I invested hugely. I was like, yeah, like like 150,000 or 150 million or a couple $1 billion in hydropower, because it's like, one day it will be mine and it will be awesome. It'll be awesome anyway. So that's why like all the different dams are all mine, and that's why like NASA or whatever, or Nessa, that one Filipino leader or whatever, or Egyptian leader was. I was like, you're not the real leader. Shut up, because he was like, oh, blah, 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 it's us. And it's like, no, it's not. That's my money, and it's built up from Germany and all this other stuff. Like, we've been building for all this time. Like, shut up, and he was just going through killing people and stuff. So anyway, so that's why Hoover Dam is mine, and maybe even Three Gorges. I'm not sure. Like, a lot of the dams are actually mine, because I was like, forget nuclear power. We're just going to go with hydro because it's better. Anyway, and then later on, it's like, well, I guess we can do some nuclear power plants. But hydropower is just so much easier. I mean, it's, it rains, it goes there, and then we use it. I mean, so what's wrong with that? So anyway, so we went big on the hydropower because it takes longer, but it's better. So that's why a lot of the dams and all of the hydropower stuff, free energy was basically me, and I was blowing money like crazy and basically going to be in debt for a very long time, but it keeps paying out. So anyway, and then I found a way to meter the power and all that other stuff. So, it joins the cost. So it actually becomes efficient and affordable when you look at the overall thing. So that's why I'm hydropower and some nuclear. I do, some nuclear, but nuclear is more like a stopgap until we got the hydropower. Because I was coal power, and I was like, well, there's not enough fuel. We need something better. So, and there's all this water that rains everywhere, and it's like, we'll just find a place where it rains a lot, and then dam it up, and then use the power. So that's why how Three Gorges is probably my project. Hoover Dam was my project, and a lot of other projects were mine, because a lot of the things I was doing, a lot of the building, a lot of the mining, that uses power. So, Lusifer star! Anyway, yeah. So I also built some warships and some other stuff, but that was just like small potatoes compared to like the big projects. So anyway, but yeah, over the long term it's going to pay out, I'm sure. So, and I love water, and I love this planet. This planet is like my baby. Like I snuggled it. I love the people here. I love China. I love the Irish. I love British. I love Germans. I love Australians. And I love, like, even the United States, Brazilians, even for Filipinos, they're cool too. I mean, if they were just a little bit you guys need to calm down. And I even love black people and South Africans, but it's like, you guys need to calm down, stop raping people, and all that. But time will tell. I mean, anyway.